y'all. I'm Ellen. We've been super inspired by our journeys of self-healing and discovery.
And I'm Sam, and we want to share our experiences with you to help you get curious about yourself, reconnect, and get intentional about your life so you know what makes you happy.
Welcome to Woo New, the podcast. So we're here today with Sarah Song, who is a certified aromatherapist, a neuroscience enthusiast, and also an advocate for workplace well-being. Thanks for joining us, Sarah.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Wait, can we just jump in really quick? I love that title, a neuroscience enthusiast. That's amazing.
It's slightly self-proclaimed, but my undergraduate degree was in neuroscience. And then I sort of veered off career-wise into design. So now everything is just coming full circle back in my life. But yeah, I'm passionate about it. I just feel like that's such a key to our wellness and well-being. And it answers a lot of questions for me, at least.
Yeah,
in terms of my
I'm
journey.
so into that. Like, you're singing my song, girl.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah. And all these things I feel like are never for no reason. Like this whole long, windy kind of journey that you're on getting into design and all that. Because you created this really rad brand called Love Your Limbic, which basically kind of is the intersection of neuroscience and aromatherapy. And you've kind of coined this term aromatic wellness, which I really want to get into and just get your explanation on. But I'm curious, how did you come up with the concept for Love Your Limbic?
So, I mean, ultimately for me, Love Your Limbic is about finding emotional balance, which was something I was deeply lacking in my personal life and my work life. Just to give a little backstory, I came from, pretty like intense work, corporate design career. And, for all intents and purposes, it was really successful. Working your way up the corporate ladder, thinking everything is like great. And then all of a sudden, like the universe sends you a message that things are not working and the things that you've maybe relied on in the past are just not panning out for you in terms of managing stress and managing things like work-life balance. So for me, I was kind of going along in my career and then just really got hit with a couple personal things that were really intense to kind of deal with. And then on top of that, just like work intensity and like the chaos and the unrelenting pressure that can give if you are kind of like subscribing to this sort of, this is my success role and this is what success looks like to me. So honestly, like well-being and this path and journey and towards finding some healing for, what was happening to me, it sort of wasn't a choice, to be honest with you. And that was really humbling. It was something that I did not expect. I thought like, okay, I can just work my way through it. I can power my way through it. That's how I've gotten through pretty much everything else in my life and it's worked out. But really when it comes to or at least for me, when it came to my well-being, my emotional balance and things that I really couldn't quite put a grasp on, I was struggling. And so it really just called to me that I had to find out something different. I didn't know what that was. I wasn't the best self-care, advocate for myself, just because I think I used a lot of excuses to get in the way of that. But, and I think that's what a lot of people face if you're just working a lot and then giving to your family and there's really not a lot of time left for yourself. So for me, when I kind of hit this fork in the road, I kind of looked back on the things that really I wanted to understand, like, what is my emotional why? Like, what am I doing? Besides like, truly they say things like, okay, when you die, like on your tombstone, what is it going to say? And what do you want people to say about you? And I was like, wow, I'm great. I'm a great workaholic, let's say. I can check that box. But when it comes to really even understanding like who I was as a person, I don't know if I was really successful in that area at all. So that's where my journey started. It was just like this intersection of like work life and personal life kind of coming to a head. And really looking back on what it was that could help me kind of figure out some of these answers for myself.
Yeah, I resonate with that so much. I mean, I feel like Ellen and I went through such a similar process when we left advertising and digital marketing because it was just like we didn't know really where to start, but
Mhm.
we just, and we were living out of survival mode constantly. And so it was you, the first step really for us too was like, how does my brain work? Like, why are things like this happening? And please, God, don't let anybody write on my tombstone like the way they felt about me when I worked in advertising.
It's so
Yeah.
true. Like, I feel like we knew nothing about self-care, and yet we left the agency to start a self-care company, which I
Yeah.
find kind of like kind of humorous now because I'm like, it's something like literally I knew nothing about, you know? And so I think what also drew me to your concept, Love Your Limbic, is the fact that you're using aromatherapy as sort of an entry
Mhm.
point. And for Sam and I, like a lot of the products that we've created, it was really out of this kind of sense of desperation where we're like, how do I just feel better fastest? And
100%.
we stumbled across aromatherapy, and it's not like we set out to create a lot of aromatherapy products, but it just happened because that was literally the quickest way that both of us had found a way to like self-soothe. So I'm curious, like, can you break down the science for us and just like, basically how it all works?
Yeah, I mean, it's not a coincidence, I think, that people find aroma as sort of a quick entryway into maybe finding an energetic shift in what's happening. That's exactly what happened to me. I knew I always liked plants, and I always loved even just the most simplest smells like lavender, but I had no idea why, and it all kind of came together for me when I got my certification and just really started to understand about what it is about these molecules that are in the plants that literally affect our olfactory bulb, which is the closest thing to our limbic system, which the limbic system, just in a nutshell, is what I'm calling our emotional brain. It's developed when mammals started to evolve, and basically, it's the home of our fight or flight and our stress response. It also does other amazing things like memory with your hippocampus, it's hormonal control through your hypothalamus, and it's also olfaction. So it's just not a coincidence that our sense of smell is the only sense that goes into this part of the brain, which is why when we smell something, it's really immediate. It's really only like two, what they call two synapses, two connections through neurons away from the amygdala, which is your fight, flight, freeze response center. Um, and it's also why when we smell something, we can conjure up memories that just come flooding out of nowhere because it's touching, or not literally touching, but it's metaphorically synaptically touching our hippocampus, which is sort of where our memories are even formed. So aroma is sort of like a gateway in a way to self-care, which I find it's honestly incredibly practical because it doesn't take a lot of time. That's why I love it. If you're using it for emotional transformation and emotional balance, it's something that will affect you biologically, neurologically within just a couple synapses away. Whereas maybe something like another self care modality, I'm making this up, but like meditation,
Mhm.
it's like the long marathon of it all, right? And
Mhm.
that's something that we really have to sit and train our brain and our mind to settle down and create new neural pathways. And so aroma is sort of like the antithesis to that. And so, what I kind of like to think of aroma and aromatherapy and aromatic wellness is like it's not just one modality fits all, because we all have different speeds to self care and we all have different needs that will soothe us in different times. What I have found with aromatherapy, using it the way I do for emotional balance, is that it's just incredibly practical. Like you guys said, it's something that's easy to gravitate towards. Um, And it's something that our body and our brains just kind of on a primordial level fully understand. I mean, we talked about how animals use their noses to navigate through the world. And there was a time before humans evolved that our nose and our sense of smell was like the main way we navigated through the world. And it's almost become like the sense that's sort of buried underneath. And I call it like my unsung hero sense, because that's the thing that's really allowing me to connect to this emotional and self-soothing part of myself. And what I also love about it is the thinking more evolved part of our brain. So that's kind of the area behind your forehead, your prefrontal cortex, which evolved much later in life. Like, we're really good as people, especially in a stressed out world, like, to overuse that part of the brain. That's our strategy brain, it's our thinking brain, it's how we're able to recall things in the past and then use that information in the future, which a lot of other animals in the animal kingdom don't have as evolved a prefrontal cortex as humans do, right? But when we're overusing that part of our brain so much, that's exhausting. And that's where, we're constantly overthinking things and not able to catch a break. So for me, the thing that aroma did for me was it just allowed me to disengage that part of my brain for a second. Like, it just gave me some space and some time to kind of put that overthinking part of my brain, because that's sort of my thing is I'll overthink something to death. Um, and then be able to rely on other parts of my brain, which is to get more connected to this inner self that is really a little bit, what for me was a little bit like underdeveloped, and you know needed a little bit of like love. Quite frankly, it needed a little bit of love, which is why I named my company Love Your Limbic, because that's the area that I wanted to kind of focus on.
So when you are, I guess, engaging your limbic brain through scent and through aroma, are you actually turning off your prefrontal cortex? Like, they can't operate at the same time.
I'm sure that they could operate at the same time, but when you're overcome with something like smell,
Mhm.
at least for me, it kind of overtakes my sensory world a little bit, and
Mm.
it gives that other part of my, obsessing about tasks that need to get done, or deadlines, or, even anything that's slightly like anxiety inducing, like all of the stuff that we're dealing with right now in the world. It's
Mhm.
giving that area a pause. I mean, the way our brain works is we have like 85 billion neurons, like kind of all lighting up at different times. And it's not just about one area of the brain working while another one is maybe offline, but it's like, how do all of these areas of the brain kind of in concert work together and communicate really beautifully? So even when we're in a fight or flight, like really scary, like I'm freaked out or I'm anxious or something scary is happening, you are disengaging your prefrontal cortex. Like, because you have to act on an impulse that is much greater and is going to push you to do things that, if you really thought about it, would probably be kind of frightening. It's like that same analogy of like, if you see an accident or something, you're going to just act on maybe how to save someone's life versus rationally thinking about, well, if I go over there, then I could get hurt, or how am I going to pick up this heavy thing and help this person? Um, you just kind of do, and you act, and that's the whole function of the limbic brain. It's really designed to keep us alive. So it's a beautiful system that's come together, that's woven between like your memory and your hormones and how it talks to your lower half of your body, with our stress response, but then also how it speaks to this upper part of our brain, which is the cortical parts. And it's how it all comes together that I'm personally really like interested in.
Yeah. I think when we first discovered aromatherapy, what was so mind-blowing to me was that how our bodies are automatically wired so that when you smell a certain sense, it triggers a physiological change throughout your whole body. And at that point, we were so zeroed in on sleep. We were just like, how does this happen again? We we have
Right.
to get back there, and then quickly realizing that there were little things we could do to create a more restful environment, like using a diffuser with lavender essential oil at night. Or, it actually even inspired our pillow spray. I mean, all these things that were so, it was like, let us get out of the way of our bodies and just
Oh,
let our
yeah.
bodies do what they naturally do in an environment that's conducive to that.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think, like, one of the things that people overlook when we think about aromatherapy and what does it mean? It can mean something a little bit different to other people, but for me, it's so much more than, like, just a nice smelling scent or a perfume or something that's supposed to mask a scent in a room. If you go back to sort of what the heart of aromatherapy is for me, it's an absolute connection to nature and the plant and what that plant molecularly is communicating back to you. So I often say, like, we need the plants more than the plants need us. They will be around much longer than we will probably be around on this planet. Um, but when we talk about aromatherapy, it's really about, like, the essential oils. The essential oils are the compounds that come out that make up the aromatic quality of the plant. But within the essential oils, there's a lot of many, many different chemical constituents. So one of the things you mentioned was lavender and sleep. And that was one of the things that drew me in. I'm like, why do I like smelling this right before I go to bed? Or how does it calm me down? It's because there's chemicals within the essential oils that are actually proven to work on our central nervous system to calm it down. So, like, for example, lavender has a chemical called linalool and linalool acetate, which are sedative to the central nervous system. And there's a lot of papers, like, on lavender, on rosemary, on tea tree. There's, like, some that are a little bit more studied that they have been able to just show in a laboratory or through qualitative research that these things do actually activate the central nervous system in a sedative way. And then on the flip side of that, there are oils that are much more energizing, such as your eucalyptus or your rosemary. Those are things you probably don't want to smell before you go to bed for the complete opposite reason. They have chemicals in them that are moving, clearing, expectorants, decongestants. So imagine if they're doing that on the cellular level, what they're also doing to your neurological level. They're going to keep you activated and up. Um, and so for me, it's like I always try to bring it back to the plant and what the plant is actually communicating, not just even on a spiritual level and cultural level, because that's a whole other component, but on a chemical level. And that's exactly why you guys probably made your pillow spray with the lavender, because you just knew that it was helping in this way.
Yeah, I love what you're saying about also just it's it's like reclaiming a respect for plants too,
Yeah.
like that
100%.
I
Yeah.
I have not really thought about aromatherapy in that way before, and maybe it's because, we deal so much with the extracted essential oils, so, you sort of, like, have already removed the plant from your thought process, but you're so right, it really is going back to this relationship that we have with I mean, so much of our conversations in this podcast have been about sort of, like, going back to our relationship with nature too in various ways. I'm curious also, like, so like lavender, we were talking a lot about lavender, and we do have it in a few of our products because of the sedative qualities. I know, like I think Sam has an aunt or a friend who just does
Oh my
not love
gosh.
lavender.
Yeah.
She's a
She's
hater.
so, yeah, and it never even crossed my mind that somebody wouldn't like lavender, but then I realized, like, Ellen and I were talking about it, and I was like, "Oh my god, we actually have lavender in, I think, almost all of our scents." And it's such a fascinating thing. It's like eating cilantro for some people, I guess.
Totally. And I will say, so that's the other sort of more, I guess, energetic or emotional part of aroma and what it can do. It's so incredibly subjective and personal.
Mhm.
Like, if I'm creating something even for myself or for a friend or for whoever, I do have to take in what their subjective response is going to be to the oil that I might be choosing for them. And that's what's so fascinating to me is like, who knows, there could be some trigger that your was it your aunt who had something with lavender as a young age and just has never liked it. It could be cellular that we don't really know, but my thought process is that it's probably more of like there's a association with something that was not liked or something. Like there's certain perfumes I just don't like. There's certain scents that I'm not into, and no matter what, I probably won't use them in blends for myself for that reason. And that's the beautiful thing. There's lots of other substitute type of plants that you could choose if lavender is a trigger for somebody. Cause I know I'm with you. I love lavender. I think it's one of the most beautiful things. I think people, because it's so overused that, maybe people just have an aversion to it.
Mm.
Um, but it's really subjective.
Yeah, yeah, my mom is like that too. I mean, certain anything that reminds her of going to Catholic church as a child, she is like, uh-uh.
She can't.
Yeah, she's like, don't you light that incense in this room. I'm like, okay, here we go
So
again.
true.
Those memories
And
are so strong.
Oh, yeah.
yes. I mean, they're deep in there too. And it's something that sometimes you smell something and you're like, what is that? I just cannot put my finger on that. But it brings you back to another time and place that is just in our subconscious level.
I had this one, it's like it happened not that long ago, maybe even a year ago, where I don't know, it was like a smell memory that came to mind, really is what it was. I didn't smell it. It wasn't anywhere around me, but it was a smell memory of this Bliss lotion that I used to use circa 2005, 6 when I was dating this person. and and I don't know why. It's not that I wanted to, reconnect with him or anything like that, but suddenly I had this smell memory in my head, could not get it out of my mind, and I just really really wanted to smell this again. And so I like literally went all over the internet trying to find this particular scent of this lotion that they don't make anymore. And
That's
I
so
wasted
funny.
2 hours like literally trying to track it down because the need to smell it again was so great in me, which is completely inexplicable. And I have no rational explanation for it, but except that it was just a compulsion.
I love that story so much. Scent can really drive drive people to want to do different things for sure. Another kind of interesting thing that I think with scent and how it actually impacts behavior is like there have been some studies, and I can send them to you afterwards, where they've actually, you know, had a pleasant smelling scent on whatever it might have been in the research that they were doing. One was actually in a mall, so it was kind of like taken. There was somebody kind of standing near a bakery, and they purposefully dropped their glove on the floor.
Mm,
Versus another part of the mall where there was no scent at all. More people helped and picked up the glove for the person where they were near the bakery versus the other side. And there have been several different studies where you get this communal pro-social behavior that's happening in a way
Whoa.
that we're not consciously thinking about it, right?
wow.
But people are acting and responding. And in just the same way, the opposite, if there's something foul smelling, it actually drives aggression in people. So there's something going on greater than our free will that happens when we activate our aromatic senses, because I mean, I believe it's just so deeply tied to this part of our brain that we're not really consciously even aware how we're acting on it. But I thought that was amazing because it has huge implications for how we act in a society together in
Yeah.
pleasant smelling environments versus non or foul smelling environments.
Even in
Totally.
environments that are super high stress, like the jobs
Oh,
that we
yeah.
left and even the work that you started with.
You just pump out
Yeah.
like bread smelling or like
Yeah.
cupcake smells like in the office.
That's like my dream right there. That is the one. So I started Love Your Limbic because I mean, I just knew from my own personal experience how corporate culture can be, especially with with people. I know you guys fully understand that and the pressures that are and it's kind of hard to explain that pressure, especially the pressure we put on ourselves, the pressure we might feel, and then all of the relationship dynamics that we're trying to manage within this very complex social experiment called work. I often call it like a petri dish because it's like, and we're the people under the microscope. But, I started with the notion of like really wanting to go in and, change work culture and the way that self-care is completely disregarded within the hours of time that we're at work. And for me it's really like a battle cry because I feel like so many people now are spending so much time at work. Work life balance to me doesn't even it's a notion that's a little bit of the past because I just think that especially with working from home and all this stuff, work life fluxes into home life and that fluxes back into work life. And with technology, we don't even know what we're actually doing at any given moment. But the fact that like when we are in an office space from let's say 9 to 6, like why should self-care be something that we have to do off hours? It really shouldn't
100%.
have to be, right? So
Yeah.
even like, yes, pumping in lavender before that crazy like creative review meeting, um, and even ways to bring self-care into the workplace. That's one of my mega missions of Love Your Limbic. And that's why I started with workshops in the workplace because workplace well-being to me is really just as important as individualized well-being.
Wow.
That's so rad.
Yeah, that totally hits home for us because, that's the world we came from. And
Yeah,
that still remains one of our core missions because it's like life, we say this all the time, life shouldn't have to be that hard.
I know. It's such a simple premise. And I mean, just to think maybe on a positive of everything that's going on in the world right now with people reevaluating these types of things, that it really shouldn't be that hard to your point. It's a lot of man-made stress that, is maybe not necessary,
Mhm.
that we're just conditioned to.
This reminds me of this one time when I had first started working and I was commuting from Denver to Orange County every week, and working part of the week out of my clients' offices. And I remember one time telling my parents, who both worked in the emergency room, about these deadlines that we were trying to hit and how crazy it was. I mean, we were like, our creative directors were shooting all day and then pulling selects at night, and we were retouching on the fly. I mean, it was so crazy.
Oh,
And my mom stopped and she looks at me and she goes, "Well, can't you just tell your CEO that that's not realistic and offer him a different deadline?" And it was this moment that I'll never forget because I was like, how do you even respond to that?
yeah. Like, it seems so simple, but it's, like, not even in our realm, like, a possibility, right?
Yeah, and it
Yeah.
and it became abundantly clear that to me in that moment that I was speaking to someone whose job it was literally to save lives in
To
times of
save lives.
crisis. And
Yeah.
I was like, where do I go from here?
Yeah,
It puts it
perspective.
all into perspective. Um, so in the office space, because I've been thinking about this a lot too, particularly because I do remember I had a diffuser in my office and people would come and sit and just enjoy the diffuser.
I was totally
'Cause-
one of those people. Your
I've
office was
had them
like the Zen
too.
space.
Yeah, but I also do recognize as we were just talking that, scent is so personal. And like, let's say I had lavender kind of, in my office, like it doesn't attract everyone, right? So I'm curious, like, um,
Mm.
if you were to use aromatherapy in a corporate space or an office, a space that's shared by a lot of people, are there rules or like, I don't know, guidelines that you should abide by? Or
Well,
is that even a thing?
no, I definitely think it should be a thing because I've been in some places where, yeah, to your point, like something is really awesome to one person and it really smells not great to someone else. And just the nature of when you're diffusing, it's going, particles are just flying into the air, so you can't really contain them. But one of the things that I'm a big proponent on, and part of the workshops that I do when I'm doing them with corporate clients, is to create what I call a personal diffuser. So a diffuser it can look like the ones that we typically know that kind of shoot out into the air and will cover like a larger space. But really, a diffuser can be defined as anything that's just going to carry the oil scent through. So, like for example, some of the things that we'll make is like a Himalayan salt, very small, like a 1 ounce container with some botanicals in it and the essential oils mixed up that has a cap on it. So basically, if you want to just keep that in your desk and pull it out, uncap it, and smell it, it's really
Mm.
only going to go just up into your nose basically, and the person sitting next to you won't even smell it. I do think there's kind of like diffusing has gotten really really popular and bringing it into a public space. It's kind of like, oh my gosh, it's to me it's the same thing as when people are in a waiting room and listening to their iPhone on speaker, or you know what I mean, and I'm like, just because you can do that doesn't mean you should do that, because we can all hear your conversation, right?
Right.
So I really am a proponent of finding personalized way to diffuse. I've also found some really amazing products on the market that I'm going to be selling on loveyourlimbic.com, where it's just, beautiful ceramic stones that you can just put a couple drops of the essential oil in and then just enjoy it, within your very personal space. Um,
Ooh, I
because
love that.
I'm not gonna lie, I've been in some offices where maybe the quality of the oil is not really great either, and it doesn't really smell clean or good, especially if you're using a water-based diffuser.
Mhm.
So, it can defeat the whole purpose, really.
That I love the personal angle to that. I forget what they're called, but it's basically like the same concept as a Vicks Vapor Rub, but like an
Yeah.
inhaler? Is
An
that
inhaler, yeah,
yeah.
basically a personalized inhaler. I like the, use of the salts just because with so much consciousness about materials and plastics,
Mm,
I have a refillable inhaler, but for the most part, they're like plastic and one single use only. So
gotcha.
I have been
Mm.
shying away from using those, even though those are incredibly convenient. But the other ones are also portable too, and I can send you guys some samples for sure. So you can.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Mhm.
love that idea.
I know we've been sort of dancing around it. We probably haven't really hit it directly on, but we're in the thick of this whole coronavirus quarantine, and I was just even reading this article that Paul Stamets, the mycologist, just put out like a few days ago with the University of Arizona and Andrew Weil about just integrative ways that you can reduce risk.
Mm.
And like second on the list, like the first one was getting more adequate sleep, but the second one was managing your stress, which I think aromatherapy really helps in that area. And I'm curious, like, what your advice would be to people
Mm.
who want to incorporate aromatherapy as a stress reliever while they're at home.
Totally. I mean, talk about like an unprecedented time that we're right in the middle of it and almost probably just starting. Um, I mean, I think the first thing is, and this is something that I have to constantly check in with myself, is just to be compassionate with ourselves, right? Because we have to pause and just recognize like how big this thing is and what this could mean. So like for me, like I even have to check in with myself quite often just to am I anxious? How am I feeling? And allowing those feelings to kind of come up. Um, this is sort of a learning from me in my past life too, is like when I was stressed out or when I was anxious, instead of kind of allowing it to happen, I'd want to suppress it. And so,
Mhm.
and I think that suppressing it and trying to like fight it is almost worse in a way. So the first thing I would say is just to kind of have like some self-compassion and love around the fact that this is a complete unknown world that we are entering. I was going to say sleep, that's probably the most important thing. But when it comes to the way one can use essential oils to calm your sympathetic nervous system down. So basically, your stress response works like a gas pedal and then a brake. And when our amygdala is sensing something is going on, which right now It's sort of like a low level rumble that's going to go on for quite a while that can really set our whole bodies into this sympathetic overdrive that is not really going to shut off anytime soon. Like I even know for myself, I just have chronic muscle tension in my upper shoulders. I don't think that's gone away for me my entire life, but you know, like, I could get so many massages and I don't think it'll really do much, but that's kind of why, because we're kind of being held in this sort of locked position. So I kind of gravitate towards oils that are going to calm down my sympathetic nervous system and just slow everything down. So those are the ones that we've talked about a little bit that are sedative, what we call anxiolytic, which calms the nervous system. So those could be like lavender, some other great ones, frankincense, vetiver, clary sage, Roman chamomile, jasmine. These are all oils that are not going to stimulate, whereas maybe a peppermint or rosemary or eucalyptus is going to do the opposite to our system. So I would maybe kind of hang out in the more sedative worlds of oils. And the way we can use them is just as simple. It's literally as simple as just putting a couple drops into a cotton ball or into, I don't really like to put it into the palm of my hand, although some people recommend palm inhalation, but I'm a little bit sensitive to putting it directly on my skin. So I use like a tissue or a cotton ball and just bring it up to my nose, do some calming breathing exercises, which I know you guys have so many great suggestions on how to calm down the system with breathing exercises. Um, or diffusing in your space and just making sure you don't over diffuse, like give yourself a break, like 20 minutes on, 45 minutes off, and like that, like alternate.
Is that
um,
the healthy way to diffuse? I never knew. Like,
Yeah.
so if you think about diffusing, I mean, it all is like a ratio of how many of these particles are kind of emitted into the air versus how much space you have, right? So if you have a giant space in a tiny diffuser, it's not really going to cause any issues. However, think of it this way, because these are volatile organic compounds, I mean, they're chemical, just like any other chemical that we might come across. They just happen to smell amazing. Um, so if these molecules are diffusing into the air, which is what happens when you diffuse, the particles, if they are, let's say, landing on your skin or going up your nose in a very continuous manner like that, and not giving your system a break, is not good. It's entirely impossible to over diffuse. And a lot of people just run the diffuser, oh gosh, or they might do it overnight by their bed, which is not a good way, because you're just basically emitting all of these chemicals onto your body and they're going to go in through your skin, right? So
Oh my
that's
God,
the
I've
way.
totally been doing that. My diffuser is right next to my bed and it has like 4 different time settings. And I always set it to the longest one, which is like 180 minutes.
180. Okay, well that's better than like 8 hours straight. But yeah, you want to really be careful when it comes to diffusing. Like a little goes a long way. Um, Culturally, we want more, more, more. But when it comes to things like oils, like a little goes a long way, especially when you're just using it to kind of fall asleep and stuff like that. So the rule of thumb is like you could do like 20 minutes on, 20 minutes off, 20 minutes on, 20 minutes off. And that's kind of the more aggressive way to do it. A lot of people just do 20 minutes on and an hour off, really, just so you can make sure there's, enough air circulating. Because ultimately, these oils are extremely powerful. And when they land on the skin, that's where you have to just be really careful with the sensitization in the future. When I see people just putting oils on their skin, I cringe, because it's just the easiest way to develop a sensitivity in the future that you just don't know about yet. Um,
can you get the benefits of the oils if you don't actually smell the fragrance because it's so light? So you're basically still intaking the molecules, but you're not necessarily, yeah, smelling the actual scent. Is it still giving you the positive benefits of the oil?
well, if you're diffusing 20 minutes on, you should definitely still be able to, smell the aroma, or even
Hmm.
10 minutes on,
Hmm.
in your bedroom before you go to bed, you should be able to smell it. And it might come down to the type of diffuser you're using, but there's some diffusers that are more powerful that don't require water. Those
Mhm.
are really strong. Like,
Okay.
yeah, they're called nebulizing diffusers.
Mhm.
Whereas a water diffuser, it's almost like a humidifier. I find that the scent of those are much weaker. But if you use a nebulizing diffuser, I mean, it's basically just vibrating the air out into microparticles. And so it's pretty intense. But going back to your point, would you get the effect? I don't think so. You can dermally, you know, put uh essential oils into a lotion or a salve or a balm or something and put it on your skin and have it go through and have it have impact on your cellular level, which you may not necessarily need to smell. For me, when it goes through the nose, that's more of an energetic, emotional
Mm.
transformation. And when it's going through your skin and the body, that's going to be more of a therapeutic, because we know that a lot of these oils have like antibacterial or antiviral um, qualities to them. Or like if you have a burn, lavender is a great thing to put on there as long as it's diluted to the right dilution rate, um, to help on a dermal level.
Yeah, it's
So
antibacterial, right?
yeah, and it's great for skin. Like that's how they actually even discovered the incredible benefits of lavender, is because the scientist had like a laboratory fire and he had lavender oil in his cabinet because he was doing some work with essential oils, put it on and create like, I don't know if he put it on 100% neat or not, but it really helped with the skin, like in terms of wound healing.
Wow.
So it's got a lot of benefits to it. But for me, like if I want an emotional shift, I have to be able to smell it and have a kind of almost like visualize the plant, like
Mhm, mhm.
giving me its essence and gifts in a way.
Yeah, it feels more like an experience that way
Yeah,
almost.
Yeah. So we've encountered different companies and brands who are all like, I guess, claiming that they have aromatherapy properties. And I'm sure that there's like so many misconceptions and so many just like false information around what aromatherapy actually is. Like, does it have to be an essential oil based to be an aromatherapy product and things like that? I'm curious, like, if you could go through some of those with us too, because it seems to me like, at least from what we've researched, that it's not really aromatherapy unless it is an essential oil. Is that
correct.
correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I think what's happened in more contemporary times is that use of fragrance that are smell like essential oils in the gift industry, bath and body care, have really kind of shifted what people think aromatherapy is. And don't get me wrong, things that smell good are going to make you feel good. Even
Mm,
like my favorite face lotion has like a beautiful scent to it. There's no essential oils in it, but I love putting it on. It makes me feel good, So there is absolute value in things that smell good, but going back to what aromatherapy and the history of it is it's essential oils that are genuine to the actual plant, um, and authentic. So you can create something in a laboratory that smells and even has some of the chemical compounds that you might find in lavender, but it never came from a lavender plant. That
mm,
is not a true essential oil. And that's where we have to kind of be a little bit cautious of what's happening in the world of wellness and aromatherapy, because it's not an FDA approved, industry. Everybody is, if you're not a reputable company, can say anything about any type of essential oil, even down to claims that it can cure this, that, and the other. It could be cut with a lot of synthetics and you would never know. And the term therapeutic grade is just a marketing term. It doesn't really have any meaning.
What about, sorry to interrupt you. What about natural oils? Are those the ones that are cut with synthetic?
Well, if it's truly 100% natural, no, that means it actually came from a true plant source. So, at least in my understanding. If it has yeah.
Like natural fragrance oils, I think is the term that we hear a lot,
The word so it's interesting, it's probably semantics. The word fragrance oil to me is already a red flag.
Yeah, that's like perfume.
right?
Yeah, like it could have been, made with maybe half lavender pure essential oil and half synthetic elements that smell like lavender.
Sometimes I'll see on a label that it says a product is made with organic and natural oils.
Organic and natural oils.
In which case, I guess, like, I just have always chalked that up to, oh, okay, that's a natural fragrance oil and not really thought much of it. But as soon as I see the word natural, to me, I'm like, that's something other than pure.
Well, to me, I actually think the word natural, if it's used correctly, would mean that it actually came from nature. But I'm wondering, it's funny. I was reading another product label recently, and it said wild crafted and organic or something like that. And I had to go through each oil, and some of them were organic, some of them were wild crafted, and some of them were like natural. So maybe in that label you read some of the ingredients are organic, and then some of them are natural but not organic, because that's another thing. You can get organic oils and non organic oils. Um, so it's kind of tricky. And it's one of those things that the more you just educate yourself and really kind of dive deeper into it, you'll be really surprised at maybe some of the things, you know, just like any industry, it's like there's always like what you see at the surface and then the dark story underneath, you
Totally.
know?
We've heard the term wildcrafted quite a bit, especially, towards the end of last year. I feel like it started to come up a lot. How do you define wildcrafted, and what's your opinion on wildcrafted essential oils versus organic essential oils?
So to me, wild crafting is the plant is actually just growing wild in nature. It's not farmed. It's not cultivated. It's like like for example, I spent some time in Sedona, actually distilling wild crafted essential oils, where these trees are just growing naturally in the mountains. They belong to the state of, to the state. And if you want to be able to wildcraft, you can't just go out there and start hacking down trees. It's almost like you do need a license. You're only allowed to take certain amount of plant material, like by weight. And it's really regulated, because can you imagine everyone just going into the, mountains and taking whatever it is that they wanted, and it wasn't
Yeah,
regulated.
that would be like
Um,
people at the gun stores right now.
Oh my gosh. Just yes, like hoarding plant material, and that stuff takes a long time for it to regenerate. So or it's like overfishing, let's say. You can only
Hmm.
pull so much out of the ocean. But so wildcrafting to me would be like the ultimate highest, most beautiful, most connected to nature experience to get that type of oil. And there's not many places that do it. Because exactly of the nature and the amount you have to distill to get what they call the yield is, you're pulling hundreds of pounds of needles out of like the forest, putting them in your car, driving them back down the mountain. It's a very, then distilling. It's a very laborious, intense process. But you're going to get the most pure, most beautiful, most unadulterated type of oil. And then the next I would say is organic, because most of these are going to be cultivated from a farm, just like our vegetables. We don't really want, especially if you are therapeutically using them across the skin, it's best to not have them with pesticides, because they're going to have pesticides just like your vegetables might. Um, Obviously, you can't maybe get organic in everything, but there are some great companies out there who really try to push for organic. And then, lastly, it would be natural, because it is coming from the plant, but it may have pesticide material on it.
Mm.
Yeah, there's so many different levels. I mean, at the end of the day, too, I've smelled some like a wide variety of things. And what's interesting is the things that are sometimes the most natural or wildcrafted don't always smell the best because they're not concocted in a laboratory.
That makes sense, actually. Yeah, that's I know, it's such a it feels kinda like the Wild West a little bit
Yeah.
too, sometimes with the essential oils, and there was a moment in time where Sam and I were researching them a lot because of, we had an idea to create a diffuser, like a personal diffuser,
Mhm.
and a portable one, but, yeah, it was almost kind of, I would say, like a turn off to get into the industry because, it it just seemed like you didn't know who to trust, you know what I mean? And there's so much weird information.
Yeah. I mean, I don't ever wanna say anything negative about companies or whatever, but just look at the business models types
Mhm.
and see if that's the kind of company that you feel comfortable working with.
Right.
I also come from a school, literally the school of like, the essential oils, they are extremely precious. The yields are very low that you're going to get from plant material. I'm sure you've heard like it takes like, I mean, I know for a fact it takes like 100 pounds of spruce needles to create maybe like 2 mLs of essential oil. So it's very, very precious and powerful what's in each drop, literally. So when you see companies that are touting overusage of essential oils, that immediately to me is a little bit of okay, maybe their business model or positioning is a little bit different than what I believe in.
Mm.
And if you think about these plants, just like in traditional Chinese medicine or Ayurveda, it's like you don't want to be using them every day for the rest of your life, right? Because it's almost like an antibiotic. It's like if you have an issue or an illness or an emotional thing you're dealing with, we can prescribe, in a sense, different oils to target those things. But to use them maybe every day for the rest of your life, knowing that it's such a precious material, is a little bit going against what, true aromatherapy is about. It's
Right.
Thank
about,
you for sharing that. That's
Yeah.
actually
yeah.
such a huge point. And to that point, I'm curious, like, like Sam has mentioned, we have a pillow spray. How often do you recommend people actually use that?
I mean, I think it all comes back to intention at the end of the day. If we're in a little bit of a consumer friendly, culture where we want to accumulate and we want to use, if it is helping you every day to go to sleep and you use that and spray it with the intention of this lavender has been gifted to me and it's going to help me in this way, I think that's a beautiful experience that's going to carry with you even throughout the night, right? It's sort of relying on what Mother Nature has given us to support us. If we're kind of like willy nilly spraying things in the air and not really having the intention at the end of the day or the appreciation of what it is doing for you, I think that's a waste. It's a waste of material.
Mhm.
It's a waste of energy. So I always go back to like, I would rather use less, but have the most pure intention of it and have it really mean something than accumulate 500 bottles of essential oils just so I have them and then kind of use them without really regard.
Mm.
And I hope that's sort of like, it's to me like the equivalent of like fast fashion. You can go get like a $10 sweater that looks great for the season and toss it out, but what's the real cost of that at the end of the day?
Yeah. It's a great point.
Yeah.
Yeah. And our plants are really precious, you know?
I know now
Yeah.
more than ever.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
I feel like in one of my, I think, online, herbal classes that I took, there was a video that we had to watch of somebody actually distilling, I think it actually was lavender somewhere in France, and when you start seeing the sheer amount of plant material that has to has to be processed, and just how much lavender it takes just to create one tiny little bottle, yeah, it's hard to unwatch, and it's hard to kind of like not have respect for the plants when you do see that.
Definitely. I mean, there's that whole kind of conservation sustainability model of anything that's a precious resource in our world, especially at this point. with overpopulation, over farming, over everything, over cultivation. So that's why, I don't want to say like, no, we should never rely on our plants for healing, because I think that wouldn't be true to how we actually interact with our natural world. But it really to me comes down to just having the right intention, understanding really like you don't need a lot in terms of these essential oils. In fact, like I always say, less is more. Um, Here's just like a little safety fact, like for anyone putting it straight on the skin, I recommend not doing that. And there's pretty strong rule, like a 3% for dermal applications rule, that it must be diluted to 3% for it to be safely used on the body. And for some older people or young children, that's even 1%. If you
Mm,
have something acute going on, that's could go up to 5% for a short amount of time. But when I see people just taking straight oil and putting it on their skin at 100%, you're not only just overusing the resources like we just talked about, you're not getting any greater benefit. In fact, you're probably doing more harm, because just like anything else in your body, your liver needs to flush it out.
mhm.
And overdoing it is not going to help any more than just doing it just a little bit.
I'm learning a ton
I
of
know.
just
I'm
like
But
so
it's
glad we're having this conversation because
yeah.
we've been talking about this stuff. We've been asking these questions for a long time. And this is such important information for people to know.
Yeah, yeah. Especially now when the stuff is so popular too, you know?
Yeah, it's one of those things where it kind of just it really blew up, and I mean, I kind of got into it, on a more recent thing, but it's just really important to kind of know the safety around it and know the conservation piece around it. And at the end of the day, you guys are so great at this. Like, it's all about your own self-care rituals, your own self-care intentions. How do you want to use these things for your own personal transformation? Like I always say, for me, okay, this bottle of frankincense that I've been smelling for the last hour as we've been talking, it's been so relaxing, is it's not the frankincense that's going to do it for me. Like I'm going to transform my own energy levels, but this is just sort of the vehicle that's going to help me do it. It's
Mhm.
Mm.
like my primer for my emotional transformation. That's what I call the oils. It's like it just primes me, and it's up to me to do the work. It's up to me to listen in, to tune in, to shift my energy, to be really aware, to react differently. All of these things that are all part of this emotional balance that we're all trying to seek, right? But it's not it's the frankincense is just the gift that's going to help me get there a little bit faster or easier.
I love that perspective.
Yeah. Thank you so much for saying that, because Sam and I talk a lot about this, like all the different alternative modalities that we've been studying or exploring. They're all amazing and they all do their thing, to help you along the path. But ultimately, the responsibility still lies with you to do the work and to create the change and to want the change. But
Yeah.
these modalities are wonderful to help, kind of push you along and
Right.
to illuminate and, get you started and maybe show you something new about yourself that you don't know. But ultimately, again, it's still up to you to actually do the work. Are these
Yeah.
like basically what we've been going through just recently with like the essential oils and stuff? You created an experience for Sephora recently. I know you've been doing some corporate events like that, and maybe once we finish with this quarantine, you're going to start doing them again. But I'm curious if what you teach in those events, and if it's stuff like this.
Yeah. So, the ones for corporate clients are definitely a little bit different. This was my first experience that I did with Sephora in January, where it was consumer facing inside a
Mm.
store. So there were a lot of people coming up at different times, just kind of like bombarding. But what was really amazing was that Sephora, they're a traditional beauty company, right? But they did this animation about how stress can affect the way we feel and therefore the way we look and how we want to feel. So they asked me to come in and create an experience for their customers in which what I took them through was they could take a quiz to make it, just sort of fun to kind of say, okay, are you a more calming person, or do you want more calm in your life, or do you need something more energizing? And so there was a little bit of a quiz they could take. There's a lot of handout information on stress management and how the limbic affects our whole stress response. And then at the end, they got to make one of these personal diffusers with either this calming blend or this energizing blend. And so it was a little bit of like learning, a little bit of interaction, and a lot of doing, which I think people really responded to. People really love the experience of being able to kind of mix and see how the oils come together and create their own product. And it kind of puts, a little bit of self-care empowerment into the hands of the people, which is one of the things I'm really passionate about, is teaching that to people. But I will say, hands down, people are anxious out there. Like, people are were really gravitating towards wanting something that's going to calm them down. Um, and I always like to offer the opposite, which is the energizing, because, sometimes anxiety can come in the form of like a depressed state, a stagnant state, one in which we need, some boost of an energy to get us moving in a way that's healthy. So I always like to offer both, but you could just kind of see it was a little bit of pulse on what was happening um, in the zeitgeist. And that's just that there's a lot of anxious people, a lot of people who want to feel calmed, whatever that might mean to them. And it was just a really cool experience, because I think a lot of other industries that are not traditionally, where their core is built upon wellness or well being or health, they're really taking a look at how people really want to feel and what does health mean to them. So, for it was really cool for Sephora, which is a traditional beauty company, to kind of have such an interesting experience for them. Yeah, it was really fun. And to your point, after this coronavirus ends, hopefully people will be able to come back together as a group and be able to interact and engage, and we can have more events like this.
Well, I actually feel like your work is gonna be even more needed. Not
Yeah.
that it wasn't before, but yeah, it's like now I think looking ahead, all of us are sort of on lockdown, but I think facing the sort of, financial or economic aftermath is going to be really stressful for a lot of people, and, I can only imagine that, something like aromatherapy and just education on it could be that really fast acting kind of quick I get not quick fix, but just a fast activating way to calm down in the way you sort of beautifully described earlier.
And then maybe if we're lucky, even a catalyst to a larger self-care movement and a better understanding of self-care, especially in corporate
Yes.
environments.
Yes.
100%. I think this whole thing about conversations around like immunity, self care, wellness, kind of this preparation about when, quite frankly, shit hits the fan. How are
Mhm.
we going to be prepared? And it's not always just about what's in your preparedness bag. You know what I mean? In case of an earthquake, it's truly about what tools do you carry inside of you and can cultivate inside of you. I work on them all the time. I am by no means I'm like my own biggest like advocate for this. And when you guys said you got into started a self-care company and because you were on your own journey, I think that makes perfect sense. If we knew it all, we would be doing it all, you know what I mean? But we're in the journey ourselves. And going back to what you're saying, like about, is aromatherapy a quick fix? It is an absolute quick fix. It is biologically instantaneous that it's going to impact your brain in a positive way. So I never like to say it as like a cop out, because I think that is the absolute hands down advantage of this type of
Mm.
self care. And I like to think of it as like it's complementary. It's not just this or that. It's aromatherapy. It could be massage. It could be meditation. It could be mantras. It could be whatever it is that you need to kind of build into your own toolkit. And they each have their own benefits. Um, One's not better than the other for sure.
What's the most important lesson that you feel that you've personally learned through this whole journey with aromatherapy and actually just the whole journey, like in and even getting to this point?
I think for me, and this is just based on who I am as a person and my personal journey, is like I needed to surrender to move forward. And like I've been thinking a lot about that lately. When we're, I was programmed and I was very successful at being like go go go, do do do. And it worked out. It worked out in my favor for many, many years. So I never had to really rethink things. But, sometimes to truly move forward, you have to kind of surrender yourself to something greater, something, you know, kind of lose the death grip of what is familiar that you think is helping you. And so for me, that's what it was. I also, left work. I started a new work system for myself. I had to kind of literally extract myself from maybe some of the patterns that I was so used to and just couldn't quite shake. Um, and I had to sort of reevaluate things, and it was really scary. But for me, moving forward isn't always linear. Like it's backwards and forwards and up and down. It's very much like a creative process to me. Like if you think about the end result, you probably won't come out with something as strong as when you're just deep in the process. Um, so for me, that was really, really, really important.
Yeah, what a great takeaway.
Yeah.
It is messy. It's
So
totally
messy.
messy. And you're right. I feel like I've been learning that fairly recently. This whole concept of surrender and just like being with it, being with the process, being in it, being present, like things that you hear a lot, but then I don't think I really fully understood or felt it until I got back from this 10-day Vipassana retreat. And it's been very much um, you know, I'm going to be okay. I just trust that I am, and I trust that I have this vision, but it's how I get there is so up in the air. Like and
Mhm.
I'm open to that finally, instead of having to control every aspect.
It's so hard, isn't it? It's so
Yeah.
Well, and
it's
surrendering to the unknown too. I mean,
yeah.
because
Yeah.
we can plan all we want right now, but things are changing by the day, sometimes by the hour, and we have no idea what's going to come in a month or 2 months. And I don't know about you guys, but I am daily reminded by the universe that anytime I try to like specifically plan for something or push it too hard, everything just gets halted and redirected. It's like I'm constantly being reminded at every turn right now that I am not in control, that I just have to flow.
Yeah.
100%. That's such a good way of putting it. We just have to be able to flex and flow. I know, like in my past life, control, perfectionism, these were the things that, really got me far in life, let's say, and sort of added to my so-called success in the corporate world. But these are the things that are also like undermining me
Mhm.
in so many ways, right? And so, yeah, just kind of loosening the grip of things and just, maybe things might not be perfect and okay, and that's perfectly okay, you know?
Yeah.
I love what you said too about there's just chaos, and even Ellen just said like it's life is messy, and I actually am starting to really love the mess of life, like this beautiful, like unpredictable, crazy life that we're living right now, and it's almost like I'm finding a new appreciation for it, especially having come from working in a corporate environment where I was expected to do certain things, speak certain ways, communicate certain ways. And now I'm like, I just want everybody's weirdness.
Uh-huh.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, their authentic self,
Yeah.
right?
Like,
Like
otherwise, what's the
100%.
point?
Right.
Totally.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
exhausting. I think that's the the other lesson is, like, I was exhausted, and a lot of it was self-imposed exhaustion, you know?
Mhm.
It's exhausting to keep things under control and sort of know where everything is and what's gonna happen tomorrow, and, not to say I like living, quote, unquote, "out of control," but I think just loosening the boundaries and understanding that if we have a strong sense of who we are and resiliency, then, when things start to get a little bit rocky, like, we're gonna be okay. And that to
Right.
me is worth so much because to your point, we can't control what is happening outside of our houses right now.
Yeah. What an insanely, like, timely and important lesson all of us are learning collectively.
Yeah. Sadly, but yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
So I know that we're on lockdown, but this isn't going to last forever. And, for people who are interested in aromatherapy and just want to learn more, want to be educated and see what you're doing, especially with Love Your Limbic, how can they reach you?
So I've just starting to kind of get out with my technology, I guess you can say. But on Instagram, I'm at Love Your Limbic. There's posts that are going to be about actual aromatherapy, just sort of wellness in general, education around essential oils, and then also my website, loveyourlimbic.com. You can book workshops, well, when workshops are going to be more available, but I also do one on one aromatherapy consultations. I've yet to do one kind of remotely, but that could be kind of interesting. Um, and then there's a small shop of curated items that I'm starting to collect that I think would be great for work life and home life. Decorative items, small personal diffusers, some bath and body products like, that I personally like and use. So just sort of, yeah, a little curated assortment of things. And then if you just want to shoot me an email, my email is Sarah, Sarah, at loveyourlimbic.com. I love saying hi to people and just, yeah, connecting with their community.
Yay.
So,
That's
Thank you
amazing.
so much.
This
Thank you for your
was,
time.
yeah, beyond amazing.
Yeah, I feel like I want to completely change how my approach to a lot of these things, just now being a lot wiser to you know, the ways to do it.
Yeah.
The ways to use
Maybe it
aromatherapy.
just comes with age, but I also feel like I just have such a profound respect. And maybe it's the times that we're in right now too, but like I just have developed this like crazy profound respect for plants and the world and nature. And it's almost just like taking responsibility for being respectful.
Yeah,
yes.
Like you
100%.
helped give us so much like very needed information. So we can't thank you enough.
Oh, thank you. Yes, we're all just part of this self care journey and just trying to make ourselves, feel a little bit more comfortable. If there's any way I can help people do it through, workplace well being or aromatics, I'm more than happy to help. This is kind of what my next phase of my life is all about now. So
Well, it's really important work and the world definitely needs you.
thank you guys
So,
so much. This has
thank
been
you.
lovely.
Music for Woo New is composed by Adam Miller.